Hey writer, you probably clicked on this video because you're either one, just sitting down to edit your first draft and don't know where to start, two, going through a revision right now, maybe even trying to implement beta reader feedback and looking for tips to beat the overwhelm, or three, you're still drafting, but you want to be prepared for when editing comes. Let me know which three of these you are in the comments. But no matter what stage you're in, today we're going to talk about all things editing. Specifically, I'm going to share my experience while doing developmental edits for my upcoming YA fantasy on Wings of Ash and Dust, which I'm in the process right now. Plus, I'll share the tips and tools that are really helping me organize my notes and making editing more manageable, like this Trello revision tracker, which I'll show you at the end, and somehow stay sane through it all. Now, as always, I don't claim to have everything figured out. Editing is still really hard, and I can't promise that everything I share that is helping me will work wonders for you, because everybody has their own process. But I love sharing what I've learned the hard way, usually, and I just want it to help you guys. So I'll be sure to add anything else I learn in the future in this playlist that I'm showing here and is linked down below. But the first thing I wish I knew when I was first editing is what kind of mindset I should prepare to have during the editing process. And for me, that mindset is this: that editing is a marathon, not a sprint. Can you guys relate to that? Especially those of you who are already in the editing process. Drafting, you can sort of sprint through, especially during something like a month-long NaNoWriMo, which a bunch of us just finished up. But I've personally found that editing, especially developmental editing, which we'll talk about at length today, takes a lot more. Because after writing the initial draft, there's so many waves or stages of editing, usually including developmental edits, line edits, copy edits, and proofreading. So if you thought finishing the first draft was hard and took a long time, the reality is you could be living in editing land for a very long time. And thus, to hold on to this mindset, in my opinion and experience, I've learned I need a lot of the following things: patience, endurance, humility, and grace with myself. Let me know again if you can relate to any of this. Specifically with developmental edits, you need this, as that'll probably be taking up the majority of your editing time, because one, you're dealing with things that often affect just not a single line or a single page, but the entire story. For example, the overall plot, subplots, pacing, and character arcs. And one thing I've experienced over and over in this process is that making such big changes to a manuscript often has a domino effect. You can change or shift one thing, and then all of a sudden you have to change 10 other things that just a minute ago seemed perfectly fine. Plus, you'll usually do multiple rounds of this insanity, not only self-editing, but then also implementing feedback from CPs, betas, professional editors, and the like, basically doing this process over and over until your story is perfection. And I'm going to be honest with you guys and say that if I knew how hard and intensive editing would be from the start, I might have quit before even getting started. But I don't want to quit, and I don't want you to either, so let's get into the tips. First of all, in case you're just starting to edit for the very first time, there's always some basics that most writers suggest, like taking some space from a manuscript so you can better come back to it with fresh eyes, then doing a fast read-through of the story, usually in a different format than you wrote it, so you're not tempted to start editing right away, and then taking notes as you go. As you can see from some of my earlier videos, I did all of these things from the start, but there were two things I really wish I had more clarity on from the beginning, and this is where my biggest tips start to come in. First, I wish I had more clarity around what kind of things are most helpful to take notes on, because you can sort of get into this place where you're just like, I like this, I don't like this, make this better, I don't know, do this. And the other thing, and probably most importantly, that I found is, how do I organize all of these notes for success? Well, on what to take notes on, here are some of the things I found most helpful for me, and subsequently also the things my professional developmental editor focused on in my edit letter that I got last month, the month before, sometime. Still working on it, you guys. Okay, so some of those things that you definitely want to pay attention to are anything to do with the plot. So is the pacing good? Do you have any plot holes? What are the big scene changes you think you're going to want to make, or restructuring you're going to want to do? Anything to do with character development, probably for every character in your story, but especially for the main cast, you want them to be really strong. Also, any subplots. For me, this might be a romantic subplot. If you're writing a romance book, that's probably the main plot, and you have other subplots you're trying to track. Any questions you need to answer, research you need to do to flesh some things things out. And then I always mark these things to do on maybe the second round of revisions. But when I'm first reading it through, I'm always marking, okay, this needs more description. I'm showing here instead of telling. And I also have usually in the first draft a bunch of placeholders, even in the second or third draft, where I'm like, I'll figure that out later. Specifically naming things, or I've named something temporarily and I want to choose a new name later. And in this case, I'm starting to build a glossary of terms that I can then reference later. Again, these are the things that have been most helpful to me, but if you have anything else you would like to add to this list, let me know that in the comments. And I'm just going to take a peek because we are live right now, and I see Ali and Dania and Cam and Child of God, and I'm loving that you guys are loving this. Child of God says, sometimes it's hard because I'm just like, how do I even take notes? We're going to talk about all of that. I'm even going to show you this magic tool that I've been using that is super, super helpful. So let's keep going. But even while taking these kinds of notes, which I don't know about you, it doesn't sound like with Child of God it's as easy, but for me it's the easiest and probably the most fun part is taking all the notes. The biggest challenge has been trying to find the most effective way to organize these notes. So it helps my editing process, giving me direction on where to start and how to keep track of my progress instead of feeling overwhelmed by the mounds and mounds of editing notes I've just made. So what's been helping me the most right now is to organize my notes in both chronologically and topically in what I'm calling a Trello revision tracker. And I'll show you that again at the end. So let's talk chronologically first. You might find it most helpful to go through the story and edit it chapter by chapter from beginning to end. For a lot of writers, this means that they put notes in the margins of their printed or electronic document somehow. I have definitely done this in the past, but for me, this usually meant I had to go back through all of those notes after the fact and then reorganize them into some kind of manageable game plan or checklist anyway. So to optimize this process, one thing I recommend is to take notes within your story's outline. And I have a little plan for both plotters or pantsers. So hold on to your seats. So for plotters, this will be easy because you probably already made an outline before drafting. So I'd simply make a version with the chapter numbers, maybe a short description, and take notes in that. Then you can also update your outline if anything changed while you were drafting. For pantsers, though, you can still make an outline to put your notes in, but you can do this as you do the fast read through. So don't worry, no pre-plotting necessary. And just real quick, some programs you can do this obviously are Word, Google Docs, Scrivener, Excel, Trello, which I'll be showing you at the end again. So there's a lot of options, whatever works best for you. But what about topically? What if you're editing chronologically, but you find a reoccurring character or plot line that is just messing with everything else in the story, and you realize, if I could just address this one thing that's happening throughout the story, editing would be a ton easier. Sounds like that would be really helpful, right? Well, then I started asking myself, how in the world can I organize both ways, chronologically and topically, most effectively? So, next slide. Oh, here we go. How can I do this? This is where my updated revision tracker comes into play, and I'm going to take you guys over there right now to show you a sample and how it functions. So let me just pull this up here. Whoops, we're not getting there yet. Hold on. Okay, here we go, and I'm just going to check the comments real fast. This is Trello, you guys. If you haven't seen or used Trello before, let me know. But Allie's also saying, yes, the domino effect happens all the time. Rachel says, I also keep track of a setting that needs to be changed. Ooh, that's a really good one too. I like it. Okay, so let me show you this tracker. First, I create a Trello board and I set up my story's outline in 2 acts. So this is like a list here. That's what Trello calls a list. I set it up into acts and then chapters, and these are cards that I can put under each list. Then as I read through the draft, I organize my editing notes chronologically under these chapters by putting each new editing note into its own card and placing it under its corresponding chapter. So you can create a card by doing that, but I have saved us all the trouble by making a bunch of sample cards. And I'm going to show you that if I make a card, I can just drag them into their appropriate slots. Okay, I'm just gonna do this real fast so you guys can see some of the examples. So hold on with me for a second. You're seeing a little sneak peek of what's inside, which I'm gonna show you in a little bit. Okay, all right. So then, now I've been making each editing note in its own card. So when I click on it, like I was showing you a second ago, I can then describe the problem or issue or thing I want to change in more detail. I can use it to restructure a scene, which I've done before. So if you have a bunch of scene details and you're like, the structure isn't right, I want to change it up a bit, I can just move these scene details around. I can also use it to brainstorm the answer to a problem I'm having. So if I have an issue and that's what this card is about, then I can make different bullet points about just different solutions I can come up with and then pick the best one that I think will work for me. So, and inside the card, hold on, we want to go back here. Inside the card, I also have labels that help me organize my edits into topics and categories. So this is how we have it chronologically, but now we also have it topically. So you can see I have a label here, but I can also click labels and pick any of these. And you can see I've preset them to be questions, research, big scene changes, romantic subplot, or whatever kind of subplot you have, plot holes, description. You can set up a different label for each character, and then glossary, which is what I mentioned before. And then once you add it, you can actually all see everything at a glance by clicking, and it actually shows you what each one is, which I just figured out the other day, and I was like, that is so cool. Plus, I can also search to see only the cards that apply to one topic or even multiple at once. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to go search, and then I can see only the big scene changes if I want to, or if I want to see big scene changes and then romantic subplot stuff, I can click those things and they will just show up. Now, everything is organized. But my issue with this then became that all these edits I need to tackle are not check-offable, meaning I didn't have a way to mark off when I had completed a certain edit. Then I learned a tip that changed everything. You can actually go in to a card and then copy and paste, like I do up here, copy and paste the link to that card, and then go to what I'm going to call a master list and paste it literally in here. You can always already see I've put it here, but you can paste it into a master list. Okay, I'm going to delete that just for a second. So after I've made all my editing notes during the fast read through, I can then copy and paste it like you just saw me do into a master list for each act. So I have one for each act, and then I separate it into chapters. And then I can also do this, and I'm going to show you why in just a second, but I can also do this with each category that we talked about, plot holes, big scene changes, subplots, and I can copy and paste them into here as well. And I really like this because now I can see at a glance whether I'm over in a master list, or let's pick romantic subplot, or I'm here. Now I can see at a glance all the edits I need to do. I can click them to get more info. So this actually links it. So I can go right here, which is awesome. And then I can always just click out or hit the backspace and go back to the overall one. So I can click here. And then I can also check them off as I do it because it's creating a checklist based on all the edit cards I've already made. This way I can easily edit either chronologically, like you see here, or by topic or category, or jump around to either pretty easily. So if I'm going through and I'm editing just chapter by chapter, and then I realize, oh, I have this problematic character, I have this problematic plot thing, or whatever that just keeps coming up, if I've organized them into these sections as well, I can be like, oh, this romantic subplot, it's like driving me crazy. I can click here and then just work on the cards that pertain to that specific issue. And again, I've sort of included everything I could think of into this specific sample, but you could also just start out really simply and just include the elements that you think will be the most helpful for you. Okay, now I'm going to go to the comments for a second and see what you guys think of this. Okay, some of you made it, but I am wrapping up, but I'm trying to keep these videos a little shorter so you guys can watch the replay in more, hi Caitlin, more digestible chunks. Maya says, that's so cool. Katie says, hi Brittany and everyone, woohoo, Trello. Yes, oh, some of you are just popping on. So you guys definitely need to make sure that you're here on time to get all the info, but we're going to be wrapping up in a second, and then you can watch the replay from the beginning. So let me pull this back here, and I hope this was super helpful. And I want to let you guys know that if it looked helpful but you have no idea how to set it up, I didn't want to make this video too long so that those of you that are just coming in or are watching this on the replay can actually get through it pretty easily. So let me know if you'd like to see a step-by-step tutorial on how to create yours from scratch. Right now, I am planning on showing it next week. So let me know and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. In the meantime, I still have a bunch of editing videos in the playlist linked down below that I mentioned before, and even more exclusive editing tutorials on my Patreon, where I've already shown more details about creating this tracker, as well as how to find the best professional editor for you. As always, huge thank you to my patrons who voted overwhelmingly for this topic, as well as my YouTube members who support my videos and get to use my custom emojis in the comments. All right, and I know a bunch of you, and of course that whole time I was meaning to show you this screen, but that's okay. I'll just show you really quick the few things that you missed over here, because I always want to show you this. This is the playlist, and then here's some of the extra videos I have going on Patreon, my wonderful patrons, my YouTube members, and you guys are amazing. So I know some of you came in late. We're gonna end this up so you can watch the replay real soon, but let me know if you guys had any questions. I'm gonna look back in the comments for a second. And just so you guys know, yeah, I'm gonna be trying to make my videos a little more succinct, at least most of them. Maybe one of them a month will be extra long, because I've realized that some people get to the video and they're like, this is way too long, I don't have time to watch it. And I want everybody to get all the information that I get to share. Child of God says, so this will definitely be helpful for that, but it's not huge edits. Oh, okay, we're talking about something else. Not super in the editing process, but I'm editing while drafting because I want my first edit to be the best. Let me just encourage you, child of God, that I've tried that before and it just takes forever to get to the end, because you're constantly editing. So if you can get from beginning to end, you can actually learn a whole lot about your draft and then be able to go back to it and use a tool like this to help make tracking your edits a little easier. Okay, I'm not seeing any major comments, so I think I'm going to end it here. And the replay will be available if you just refresh this page in a second. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week to show you some of that breakdown. Another video that I also want to do soon is to talk about when you get stuck in editing, what kind of things are helping me sort of get out of that that roadblock or that slump. And then just so you guys know, at the end of the month, I am going to be taking a little break from YouTube so I can actually get my own edits done, because it's a lot. I did fast drafting for a work in progress before and it was a mess. Well, everybody has their own progress or own process, so that might be yours. And if it is, good luck. But I hope these help when you get into that next round of edits. Okay, guys, I hope you guys have a great week and we'll talk next week. Bye.